This is Empty the Bench with Tom Albano,
If he needed to go, being in a wheelchair may not have been the best solution.
Nick Morgasen.
Rob Manfred needs to take a dirt nap and walk away from the league at this point. Rob Manfred needs to wake the F up and decide to do things in the right way and not bring politics, which Major League Baseball has not dealt with in this way, shape, or form.
And Nick Fodera.
Rob Manfred getting 2 of the 3 steps necessary to correct this problem right. He identified what the problem was, took steps to remove it, and then turned around and fell in a ditch.
Empty the Bench starts now.
Congratulations, Paul Pierce, on your new job at Barstool.
Well,
So,
Welcome.
everybody, welcome to Empty the Bench.
welcome to episode 81. That's Nick Fodera. I'm Nick Morgasen.
So, Tom is not with us this week because he's actually in suburban Montana trying to untangle the world's largest rubber band ball. And we haven't heard from him in about 5 days, and we're a little concerned. So, I mean, we always knew he went on these crazy flights of fancy, but I mean, this is a bit much.
That reminds me, well, even though we're off the sports track for a second, do you remember the Keenan and Kel movie from Nickelodeon where they chased that giant yarn ball in the museum?
Yep.
And Kel, I think, accidentally took it off the perch and it rolled down the hill?
Yep.
Okay. That's just, that's the one pop culture.
Idea here, folks. So
All right.
We got a lot to get into and not a lot of time to get into it. So let's just dive right in.
All right. So topic number 1. This story took over the sports world over the past week. And Nick, there's a lot of cultural topics we need to talk about with Daunte Wright and the shooting in Brooklyn Center in Minnesota.
And before we do that proper, I think it's important that we mention that every time, we try to mention the times when politics and sports and race relations, intersect, and they often do. People who say they don't really do need to open their eyes. But we try to, handle this as gracefully as possible because, again, we are 2 pasty white guys on a sports show on Facebook Live. So there's not a lot of, understanding that we try to do. But, again, understanding your own implicit biases is part of the solution. So, I mean, it's important to mention here the context. So, again, context is necessary. So let's explain that in the wake of the shooting of Daunte Wright in Brooklyn Center in Minnesota, the killing of Daunte Wright by Brooklyn Center police, the accidental shooting, but the Minnesota sports teams, meaning the Twins and the Timberwolves, I think also they canceled their games in the immediate aftermath of the shooting. And I mean, I can just say right off the bat that I don't think that it was. I don't have a problem with it. I really don't. I mean, we've seen this before. I mean, it might have been more trouble than it was worth to have to play a game because the community was already on edge. The players were heartbroken, as I'm sure, which I absolutely 100% understand. But I think that the baseball's gone all woke. I'm not gonna listen to them anymore. It's like, because put yourself in their shoes. Okay?
Yeah.
All I'm asking for is a little empathy. Would you want to take a field and play a silly children's game when the city's about to go up like a tinderbox?
See, what people don't realize is when we had the whole bubble situation in the NBA and we had the shooting with Jacob Blake, and the NBA players all came together in unison. We're kneeling during the games. We're wearing the Black Lives Matter t-shirts and warm-ups. And what people need to realize is that these are major problems going on around the world. And we can't seem to come together as a society when it comes to handling these situations. So I don't blame that the Twins postponed their game, that the Timberwolves postponed their game. It's called standing up for unity.
Yes, it's called putting it. It's not really. I mean, it's called backing up. It's called practicing what you preach. And it's if they had taken the field, I think it would have been phenomenally cynical, especially considering how much the community was hurting, and like, oh yeah, you're not gonna pass up an opportunity to make money that night. But again, commerce for at least one night, it took a backseat.
And there were a lot of people saying, well, they already went through this with the NBA and the bubble. Well, it's the same situation as the bubble. The same exact situation here, that we're dealing with another shooting of a 20-year-old.
Less than 10 miles away from where another cop is being put on trial for putting his knees on the neck of another black guy whose families actually knew each other, strangely enough. Ask yourself why you think this keeps happening. There has to be a reason why this keeps happening, folks. I think we all know what it is. I think you're all smart enough to understand that this is a systemic problem.
I mean, we saw it with another situation with a military guy from Fort Jackson who was going after a 20-year-old black kid, and we can't control our anger as a society. We can't.
We can't control our anger as a society, and we can't control. I mean, again, this is a systemic problem that needs to change. And look, we don't want to be talking about this, folks. I guarantee you, we are a sports show first and foremost, and what we want to talk about is sports. Am I wrong or am I right?
No, you're right.
Having to talk about this is excruciating, but even more excruciating is having to live through it. I mean, we're from a position of relative comfort here. But imagine if you were in their shoes and you had to live like they live. How would you feel?
I'd feel awful, terrible, a little afraid too. And
absolutely.
And you know what? Like Nick said, we're here to talk sports, and we're here to take people away from the frustrations of what's going on in politics and socially.
At least we try, but we can't ignore it when they do intersect.
So we understand why the games. I think even the Vikings made a statement afterward.
They did put out a statement, yeah.
So just you need to bear with us, because the sports world and this intersect from a standpoint. Because if the athletes of Minneapolis didn't take a stand on this, it would look bad as a whole.
It would look bad. It would look very, very bad. And you know, there's only so much, there's only so much you can actually do within the framework of the system when a billionaire pays your salary. But again, you do what you can in the framework in which you are given.
I mean, I feel bad for the Timberwolves because they have a new owner who we all know too well, but we won't get into that.
We can't get into that right now. We will when it becomes official.
But I'm just tired of everybody ignoring this problem and saying it's like a fart in the wind. Like it just goes by.
Because they cut the fart and then they just ignore it. Everybody knows you did it. Everybody can smell it. And they all know you, and they all know you specifically are the one who did it, but nobody says anything because nobody wants to be the guy, or they have a vested interest in making sure that nobody actually speaks up.
And you know what? I'm looking at everybody who's watching and listening and on social media making dumbass comments about this whole thing. Just stop. You're making the conversation worse when you go on social media and you say, he deserved it, or he was doing something. No one deserves anything, okay? Everyone deserves to be treated the same way, regardless of the color of skin or culture or race or society that we live in.
And this seems to be happening a lot more often lately, but you know what? All I can say with any kind of authority here is all I can say is that, they were right to do what they did.
Right.
So it's a right to their right as American citizens.
But who knows? It's a unique situation. We'll keep on it. We just needed to talk about that for a few minutes because it was a major story. Let's get into sports. And Nick.
And again, sports rears its ugly head. Now, context is necessary. This is in regards to The Athletic. And a story, when did that story drop?
This exactly that dropped yesterday.
Yesterday. Where now again, let's try to explain. So, complaints have been lodged going back 5 years, and about, let's say, alleging systemic sexual harassment from the Mets organization, including one Mickey Callaway. Now, you haven't clicked on an old episode. This is not. You haven't traveled back in time.
It's not a replay.
This is the addendum to what was reported on Mickey Callaway months ago. And this is the second part. And this is, oh boy.
Well, this whole story is getting ridiculous to the point where I would just say, fire the whole Mets ownership, and Steve Cohen needs to be held responsible. And I told Nick before we started this episode, I could give two shits about if people come to me and say, well, Steve Cohen just bought the organization. I don't care. It could be the Wilpons.
Steve Cohen came into this organization riding in on a white horse saying, everything's going to be different now. The way we do things, I'm going to be the catalyst of big change. Big change.
But he's not.
You're not going to believe all the he sold it like Trump. You're not going to believe all the change you're going to get. You're going to get sick of it at some point. And it's like I just, and you know what? There's an acronym that I think is very, very apt in this situation. It's SOM, same old Mets.
Why do I feel like we're saying that about a lot of the New York teams as of late, aren't we?
Exactly. And it is, look, if you haven't read the story, because it is behind a paywall, allegations are being leveled against Mets executives, Mets social media managers, Mickey Callaway himself. And if you read the story, this has been a problem that is, like I said, stretching back, at least 5 years. And they even throw in that this has been a problem since the Wilpons owned them.
That's pathetic. That's absolutely freaking pathetic that this organization, which has already had issues with Mickey Callaway and Jared Porter, to the point where I'm just like, are you freaking kidding me when it comes to this? And now you have more issues when it comes to guys like Joe DeVito and what's the other guy's name, Nick? Newman.
David Newman.
How are we getting to this point? And when I emailed Katie Strang, who's one of the people that wrote this story for The Athletic, and she said to me, after the Callaway story broke, that there's more down the pike. I thought it was more with Mickey Callaway. I didn't think the whole organization is a garbage pail nightmare and a train running off the tracks to nowhere.
Look, everything, for those of us who have taken sexual harassment training as duly employed people, everything that we are told as employees not to do, they did. So the unwanted physical contact, the creepy text messages, the I'm drinking, why aren't you drinking? The peer pressure, that kind of thing. And look, all of this does not happen unless there is a concerted effort to make sure that this does not reach the ears of management. And one of the people who looked really bad in this story was the HR manager for the Mets. I'm blanking on her name right now.
I know who you're talking about, but yeah, this whole story it sounds like the same building blocks that the Callaway story was, where basically we're talking about a situation where a creepy perv in DeVito, who's writing text messages to another woman, and I don't want to hear shit. These are real. They're not jokes.
These are real, and they've already been published in some part, at least partially going back to the first story they published about Callaway, didn't they?
Yeah, and you know what? Allegations of inappropriate behavior by Mets employees has been one of the dominant storylines in baseball over the last 3 months. Jared Porter was fired. Mickey Callaway was accused, and now we end up in this situation with DeVito and Newman.
And it's not even just sexual in nature. It's also deeply misogynist in that, pregnant employees were, or at least one pregnant employee was being harassed because she was pregnant. It's like, and I think the specific quote in that story was, "Oh, she hasn't been the same since she has her baby." Well, you try to have a difficult pregnancy and see what happens.
Yeah, but what I don't get here, you've already had 2 situations where, like I said, you had Newman, you had Callaway. Why are you not being more intact when it comes to these situations, when it comes to protecting against these situations?
You mean up front?
But I'm talking about following up and making sure these situations don't happen again.
Because, again, this is management. Because the management, first of all, I shouldn't really say management because this is Sandy Alderson. Sandy, I mean, if you're Sandy's guy, he's going to stick with you through pain of death. And this is, I mean, specifically, it's not even general I'm talking about. We have specific examples of David Newman being fired and then being brought back after Sandy came back from a year with the Athletics. And it's like, talk about a guy who just doesn't get, or it's not that he doesn't get it, he gets it. I'm pretty sure he's smart enough to understand the difference between innocent workplace banter and whatever the hell this was.
But why is Sandy holding on to people? That's what I don't get here.
They're his guys, because he has. First of all, I think he's just a doddering old fool.
No, you know what I would do?
Doddering old fool, and maybe even a closet misogynist.
No, you know what I would do? I would ban Sandy Alderson from the sport for stupidity. That's what I would do.
I usually don't make these grand proclamations. I usually leave them to Nick to make, but he has to be fired. I'm sorry, you cannot have him around after this.
No, not fired, banned. Banned from the sport for stupidity.
I mean, yeah, that is a good point. What makes you think this wasn't happening when he was with the Athletics?
I mean,
first of all, if you think that this is only a Mets problem, I have a bridge in Brooklyn to sell you.
Jared Porter was with the Cubs and the Diamondbacks. I mean, these roads go back. I guarantee you there's at least one situation in all 30 teams that have had to deal with this bullshit.
This has happened because where profit is affected, people's lives don't matter.
And you know what?
Lives don't matter where profit is affected. That's what this boils down to.
And you know what's crazy? Like, I'm reading some of the quotes from the employees. We were all pawns in this toxic workplace.
So tell me again how it's all the women's fault. So tell me again how they were leading them on. Tell me again. I don't think you can do that with a straight face.
No, you can't. And that's the problem here. And the other situation with the pregnant woman and breast pump situations.
They wouldn't. A woman, one of the pregnant employee. Of course, they didn't name names in the story, but
I don't blame them.
She needed space. They wanted to set up Newman wanted to set up a meeting with some higher ups and her at a Starbucks, and she couldn't find adequate table space because she needed to breastfeed. And again, she didn't think it would be appropriate to do it in the middle of a room full of dudes, and plus you need space for that, and he really didn't care. So
he told one woman not to wear bright lipstick so as not to bring too much attention to her mouth.
Which I guarantee you that's what he said, but he was thinking of, you look like a whore. I guarantee you that's what he was thinking.
You know what? If I were that woman, I'd slap that Newman in the face, and I would take no prisoners.
Honest to God. It's just, and the thing that got me was Sandy's quote in the text of the story itself near the end, blaming the Athletic for bringing up these baseless accusations and basically saying that I believe in second. I'm paraphrasing here, but I believe in second chances, and I don't think these offenses should amount to capital punishment.
Second chances. He's given a million chances.
He's been given a second chance and a third chance, all the way up to a 32nd chance. How much more rope do you need to give these people before they hang somebody with it?
That's the problem here. And just going back to that lipstick comment, he said that the woman's lips were too wet. Why are you judging people's looks? You can't do that anymore. You can't. I'll give you an instance. When I was working in the city, I'm not going to say what or where, but I was talking to somebody and they said I didn't want to say anything to these women, like they're wearing nice dresses. You can't say anymore to women. That's a nice dress.
And it's not. We're not debating on whether it's right or wrong, but you just don't say it. Because anything can be taken the wrong way.
Misconstrued.
Even if anything can be misconstrued. Plus, you know what? It's really creepy to actually say that. If you were actually a woman, or if somebody was commenting that you had a nice ass, isn't that a little demeaning? Isn't that a little humiliating? I mean, just thinking about it from a woman's perspective, but these people, you're in an office where penis equals authority. So I just same old bets, Nick. Same old bets.
And you know what? Can we talk about the DeVito texts also, which were kind of creepy? And we're talking about what's his name? What's his first name? What's DeVito's first name, Nick?
I think his name Anthony. Why am I blanking on his first name right now?
I'm trying to look through the story. But the point is, DeVito had weird text messages. You and I were having this conversation before the episode started. And I'm reading these text messages. And he writes, "At least I'm not as creepy as Mickey. #goals."
Okay. What exactly did you think the reaction was going to be? You really think they were going to say, "Oh, yeah, oh, no, you're fine, man"? It's like, what did you think was going to happen? You play stupid games and you win stupid prizes.
I mean,
Okay.
Joe DeVito.
If there is one thing that ties together both stories that we've covered so far today, it's systemic problems are rampant every single pore of American society.
Yeah, but it's wrong when, just to read a few more of those quotes, "I've barely hit on you, so that counts for something."
Spoiler alert, man. No, it doesn't.
"I want to let you know something. I don't want to be that guy."
And then you proceed to be that guy.
Yeah, you're that guy. Just admit it.
It's I don't want to be racist, but then racist.
Let's see. "I respect the F out of you, and I'm not being Mickey, right?" Followed by a crying, laughing emoji.
God. I mean, how was a woman supposed to take that?
And the worst part is, it ended with, he also responded, #that's what she said. Like, really? What is wrong with you as a person?
I just, you know what? And they're going to get away with it. I mean, Sandy Halterson's going to get away with it. I mean, nobody's going to face any kind of, because they're just going to say, "See no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil."
No, you know what? They should play the scene from Family Guy where, Dretz, play me off, Johnny. And he's in hell.
Yeah, you might wonder why he's in hell.
Yes.
Oh, God.
That. So, but the Mets need an overhaul as an organization. They do. And I've gotten to the point where you can't find Steve Cohen money because Steve Cohen is worth $13 billion. How much are you going to find him as an organization?
And if he can't do these things, maybe he's no better than the Wilpons.
So this story is messed up, and Major League Baseball is messed up, and Rob Manfred is messed up to the point where you're just like, you wonder why fans don't want to watch Major League Baseball anymore, do you?
And you keep wondering why. Oh God!
But speaking of more issues with Major League Baseball, a report from John Heyman: could Republicans try to rescind MLB's antitrust exemptions in response to the 2021 Major League Baseball All-Star Game being moved to Colorado?
Now, for those of you who didn't catch our show last week, we did talk about this a bit. And this is only a measure of vengeance for what happened in during the 2020 presidential election. And again, I will reiterate what I said last week, which is this was a sound business decision by MLB, moving the All-Star Game from Atlanta to, well, I disagree with the destination, but I agree with the methodology. Because, again, how are you going to try to grow the sport to get as many eyeballs on your game as you can when people are pissed off that you're holding it in a state that for some strange reason won't let black people vote? I wonder what that is.
But you know what the issue we have here, and we started to talk about this last week. First of all, we think that the game should have been in Milwaukee. If you really wanted to honor Hank Aaron, if you really wanted to honor Hank Aaron, you would put the game in Milwaukee and you would call it a done deal and be done. But no, Rob Manfred, the tyrant that is Rob Manfred, had to make the decision on his own because he is the most brilliant commissioner in all of sports right now, making decisions.
And let's be honest with ourselves here. Yes, removing some of the antitrust exemptions that MLB employs and really abuses is a good thing, because really our antitrust laws in this country are completely stripped bare, which means corporations can get away with pretty much everything they want to, and nobody can stop them. But the right thing done for the absolute wrongest reason you can think of.
Rob
I
Manfred,
mean, I'm going to cure. It's like saying I'm going to cure cancer, but that's only because so I can shoot this one person.
here's the deal, okay? And I'm guaranteeing you that maybe we'll get a lot of eyeballs on this clip after the show is over when I say this next statement. Rob Manfred should never exist in the world of Major League Baseball ever again.
I mean, you've said that for God, almost as long as he's been commissioner.
Are you telling me though that he's been not worth that monocle?
Well, you mean that moniker?
Moniker, fine.
Yeah. No, I'm just saying. Again, the Republicans, the GOP is doing this for the exact wrong reasons, but that doesn't mean that Rob Manfred is exactly in the right here. It's two dueling groups of jerks.
Hey, Rob, I'm going to give you some advice for free, okay? Everyone listen closely, okay? Why didn't you go to the owners, take a vote, and say, let's have the game here, let's have the game here, let's decide, let's all take a vote, and say, all right, and if we put Milwaukee on that list, I guarantee you at least 85 to 90% would have voted for it.
They would have, but when I can't even say if money is at stake, because really is there any money in Colorado? I mean, the Rockies are terrible.
Yeah, the only money they have is the legal use of marijuana. That's the only money. And I said it last week, Nick. I said it last week that the irony when they put the game in Colorado and all other stadiums around the league, you need a license to pick up your tickets from the window if you're picking them up at the game. So it's not a difference of needing a license or being able to vote. That's the issue we're missing here.
And watch them try to do full capacity.
Texas already is. Thanks, Governor Abbott, for being the dumbest governor in our state, in our country. Excuse me.
Which is really saying something in a state in a country that has Brian Abbott and Andrew Brian Kempen and Andrew Cuomo.
We're in the state where we're dealing with a governor that can't keep his dick in his pants, for crying out loud.
Oh, okay. I think somebody's getting really angry. So let's get back on track here. I think we're going a little bit off the rails.
No, so let's finish this story, which is basically you and I are in agreement, and I think Tom is also that the game had to be moved. We get that. But we don't think it was done in the proper way.
It wasn't done in the proper way. It wasn't done in the proper way at all. But again, we said that last week. We'll say it this week, and we'll continue to say it as long as this becomes a thing that we cover.
So just Major League Baseball has a lot that they need to get figured out. And I think Rob Manfred is the wrong guy to do this. And I think that they need to find someone who isn't going to ignore the players, which I think there's going to be a lockout. And I know you guys keep telling me I'm jinxing it and there's going to be a lockout for the next 2 seasons. But there's going to be, because Rob Manfred believes in one thing. One thing. It's all about the what? The green! Okay? And that's the issue we're going to have going forward. So we'll keep it in Major League Baseball. Now, this is what I like to call the dumbass story of the week. Joe West wins defamation lawsuit against Paul Laduka.
So, again, context is necessary. So
I love this story.
If you did miss this story, Paul Laduka, ex-Mets catcher Paul Laduka, actually, accused Joe West of taking bribes from a pitcher to expand the strike zone. Problem is, and Joe West, of course, sued him for defamation. Now, in order to sue for defamation in this country, you have to prove that the accusatory party knew that it was false, but said it anyway in order to character assassinate.
They kind of missed one part of this story, though, which really made me laugh, though.
I think it was for how much was it? What was the part?
It was $500,000 was the lawsuit.
Oh yeah, it was for $500,000.
But wait, there's a funny part of this story that people are not realizing. So Paul Laduka goes all out over the years. I think this lawsuit's been taking place over a couple of years.
Yeah, it has, because he's been saying it for that long.
And it came out that Paul Laduka has never had a game called.
Has never actually been umped with Joe West and the pitcher in question. So easiest $500K that Joe West has ever made. So now he can go back to blowing calls in the World Series.
Well, wait a minute. This is for you, Paul Laduka. So what are you doing, Paul Laduka? And
I don't even know. I mean, why can't you just be like Keith Hernandez and shield gold?
Actually, I don't think those commercials are on anymore. I think that company went out of business. Actually,
no, they're still there.
Well, they got rid of the one near me that was in the shopping center, not too far away from me.
But still,
hey, when you have junk, why don't you just turn it into gold? Go ask Keith. Go ask Keith.
So moving on.
We all hate Joe West, but at the same time,
yeah, we don't like Joe West, but in a toss up between him and Angel Hernandez, I mean,
all right,
you pick your poison here, folks.
Well, speaking of picking your poison between Joe West and Angel Hernandez, let's talk about this one, Nick.
So, wouldn't be an MLB a week in Major League Baseball if somebody didn't screw up something catastrophically. Now, if you did not see the game, which was a game between the Phillies and the
Braves,
the game actually, I think it was bottom 9, wasn't it?
No, the call took place, I think, in the 6th or 7th inning, but that was the game-winning run.
So, I'm blanking on the names of the people involved.
Bohm.
Bohm, the Phillies player,
The third baseman. Yep.
The Phillies third baseman. So he's rounding. So he's rounding third on a base hit. He's about to come home. He's about to score the go-ahead run. And his foot did not touch the plate. Catcher blocked the plate. His foot did not touch it. He slid and everything, but you could clearly see on replay that his foot went past the bag, but did not touch the bag or make contact with the bag in any way, shape, or form.
You know what's worse? The umpire was in position with his leg out, looking at home plate.
Saw it. He had the best angle out of all of us.
Over the catcher's shoulder.
And said, in spite of all this, he said, safe! And, of course, Joe Girard, Brian Snitker went nuts. And upon further replay, they screwed it up again, and they called him safe. So, and then the Phillies went on to win that game. So, ladies and gentlemen, replay is broken.
Well,
I've said it before. I'll say it again. Bring on the robot umps.
Well, you're forgetting one thing. Atlanta almost had a riot on Twitter after the game.
Well, wouldn't you?
I mean, I was following along with it. And
wouldn't you? Wouldn't you? His foot was not even on the bag.
No, I'm agreeing with you. I totally think they got it wrong. And you know what's worse? How do you not see that on replay? You can slow it down and look at it from multiple camera angles.
You've got every single angle conceivable, including some only known to certain species of amoeba, and you could not get it right.
And the other problem I have here, they have one person doing replay.
One guy.
And you know what the
problem? One guy sitting in an office in front of an ocean of screens. I don't know who that person is, but
it's usually one of the extra umpires, usually.
So he's back in New York, looking at the feed. And how is it that actually the entire crew of umpires, the home plate umpire, and the guy in the booth up in New York all miss it?
The problem I have, do you know what the issue with having one person doing replay is?
Because if there's nobody else to check his work.
Well, there's no interpretation. Because if you had
interpretation of it.
If you had two people, then you could say, "Oh, wait, my interpretation is different than yours."
Wait, what do you see?
What do you see? What do I see? And then maybe we can actually say, "Oh, wait, this person probably saw it better than me. We'll go with that." When you have one person, it's one decision-making power that affects a game. And we'll talk about that in a second, how another stupid call in a Mets game should have totally been, and I think they need to change the rule on hit by pitch for replay, by the way. But
so let's get into that if we can, because it is related.
So Michael Conforto, I guess you could say star outfielder for the Mets.
One of the outfielders of the New York Mets.
It was a tie game. Tie game in the bottom of the ninth.
Bases loaded. I think it was the home opener, right?
I think it was the home opener against the Marlins. Yeah.
So 3-2, right?
It was a 3-2 count.
Bases were loaded.
Right. And it was a tie game.
The pitch comes in way inside. Conforto then proceeds to lean his elbow into the pitch.
Wait. It didn't come in way inside. It actually was going to be a strike.
Oh, you're right. Yeah. You're right. Because again, I was letting the fact that he leaned into it but it was going to be a strike. But he
clearly
leaned into it, tried to play it off like he wasn't. He leaned into it, and the ball careened off his elbow. The umpire originally said he was out, and then looked at Conforto's reaction, changed his mind, awarded him first base. The run scores, Mets win on a walk-off.
And you know what? How do you change the call? Once you're giving the universal strikeout symbol.
The universal strikeout sign, you do that. You're not knocking an arrow. You're not trying to shoot an arrow. You are out.
My favorite was when he gave the symbol and went, hoot!
Wait. Oh, it hit him. It's like, make up your mind, for God's sake.
The umpire after the game, you know what he said after the game?
I got it wrong. And is there any way to undo that mistake in terms of the record? No. Is there any system of accountability? No.
And you know what? I feel like there should be rules where if an umpire affects the outcome of a game, they should be fined or suspended for a game. In my opinion, at least that's what I think.
I mean, you think that would actually stop them from making bad calls?
I do. If they knew they were going to get fined or suspended.
I mean, maybe some umpires just miss it or just plain incompetent.
Angel Hernandez?
I mean, I don't know whether incompetence or negligence actually comes into play here. Could be a little bit of both. But again, I'm not entirely sure that the threatening of fines is actually going to do what you think it will.
No, I would threaten them with being suspended and losing game check.
But again, that's a very slippery slope to take, because then you would be judging them on things they couldn't actually physically see. Because you have to admit the human eye is pretty impressive, but it can't do it all.
The one thing is, I don't want to see what they
That's why you need robot umpires to get it right.
Here's the one thing I don't want to see, which is what the NBA does. I don't want to see an L2M report like there is in the NBA in Major League Baseball. I don't want to see that, okay? Because if that happens, I'm going to lose my freaking mind if they do that.
Oh, God.
All right, we got to move on because we're a little over here.
We're running out of time here.
So let's move on from Major League Baseball to the NFL.
So the NFL is making, with the COVID-19 vaccines, a little bit more available than they were when the season was going on. The NFL is making the vaccine a mandate for players to go to training camp. Now,
Tier 1 and Tier 2.
Tier 1, of course, meaning most players and most personnel. Tier 2, I think, is non-essential.
Right.
So, that being the case, some teams are actually boycotting the voluntary off-season workouts due to preseason negotiations on the COVID-19 restrictions that will be in place, which, of course, hasn't been confirmed at this point yet.
Yeah.
What the restrictions will be, because we don't know what's going to change with now that the vaccines are available, and what if you are going to have fans back in some capacity. So the argument about this story is, should the NFL make the vaccines a mandate? And really, they're a private organization. They can do pretty much what they want.
Yeah, and that's what I don't understand. Like, people are getting upset at the professional sports leagues because they have access to the vaccines and money, and they're a private institution. You think they give two you-know-whats about someone's opinion on Twitter with an egg as their picture?
Now, you must understand something, that we are not anti-vaxxers. I'm fully vaccinated. Nick's got his first shot, even though he had it back in December, and thank God you recovered from that. But and I understand vaccine hesitancy, but again, I do urge you to get vaccinated, because
get it.
It's
Definitely.
not about you, it's about keeping other people safe. And because it doesn't mean that you can't, again, get the virus and spread it. I understand health anxiety. I get that. I have a lot of health anxiety. I mean, it's gone through the roof over the past year because of this pandemic. But I must urge you, if you can get vaccinated, to go get vaccinated on your own pace.
Well, now they're talking about, I think with Pfizer, aren't they talking about now that you have to get a third booster shot within the next 6 or 7 months?
You might, because they don't know how long the protection is actually going to last, because they've only been able to track it for 6 months, because they haven't done anything on this scale for more than 6 months. Remember, 6 months ago, they weren't even, I mean,
They didn't have it.
It didn't exist.
They didn't have it. So
it didn't exist. So in terms of what the NFL should do, I mean, you need to make sure that players have the opportunity to get vaccinated if they want it.
Long story short, I would say that I understand why the teams are boycotting the voluntary workouts, because like Major League Baseball and the MLBPA, which we just spoke about, because Rob Manfred and Tony Clark are like water and oil and they don't get along with one another. Same thing with the NFLPA and the NFL. They're like water and oil. They don't get along with one another. So what's happening? The teams are boycotting the workouts because they're afraid of COVID.
Because they're afraid of COVID, and because they know that the league doesn't give a crap about their health.
So they don't want to lose the money because they're all business people like everybody else.
Again, it's not about players' health. When commerce and money to be made is on the table, concern for people's lives and livelihood goes way down.
Yeah, because they don't give a shit.
Relationship.
They don't give a crap. They just don't care. It's all about the bottom line.
Again, if that's the theme of this episode, if this episode can be distilled upon a complete cohesive theme, that's it.
So and we'll get back to it, and we'll have to deal with the whole NFL situation when it comes to the voluntary workouts and how they're going to handle it, because you're going to have more teams that are boycotting. But moving on to another NFL headline now, Nick, this one I kind of just put my arms up in the air. Can you help me with this one?
So I can't wrap my head around this story either, but I'll kind of try.
I heard an updated report on this as well.
Aaron Donald has been accused of assault, but
while trying to break up a fight.
While trying to break up a fight, and that's what his lawyers are saying, that he actually was the one being assaulted, and here's the picture to prove it. So in terms of what we can expect in terms of punishment, I don't know if we're going to learn anything about this for at least a while, because this ball of yarn is going to take a while to untangle.
All right, Roger Goodell, suspend him and take 2 game checks away.
Wheel of suspension.
I don't know. I mean, we haven't really heard any bad things about Aaron Donald, have we?
I mean, I can't think of anything right on top of my head. Of course, I'm not a disciplinarian, but
nor do we play one on TV.
I don't play one on TV, nor do I write parts for them.
All right. I mean, this story will get updated. All right, let's move on. Let's move on to James Conner signing with the Cardinals.
So it does seem to me that the Arizona Cardinals offseason remake continues, and they are getting a lot of good people.
They're buyers.
I mean, they are definitely buyers, because they do see something in Kyler Murray. They do see the potential that he could be a great quarterback, and surrounding him with as much weapons as you can. Of course, having DeAndre Hopkins be a world beater, and having J.J. Watt and now James Conner as your running back. It's like they're building something here, and it's going to be a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, I mean, with J.J. Watt, now with James Conner, you have Hopkins. You're looking good. Like, you're looking really good.
Try to win now. Be concerned about the cap later. I mean, they've spent how long with a low payroll? Let them splurge a little bit.
Let them be winners for a change. We don't want the Arizona Cardinals to be the laughing stock forever. Oh, wait, that's the New York Jets. Anyway.
No, New York sports is looking good right now, man.
I mean, when I heard on the radio earlier today that Zach Wilson might be the biggest bust out of all the quarterbacks in the top 5.
Oh, goodness gracious.
I said, oh, good. We're number 2 overall, and that's who we're going to end up with.
You ever heard the term agita?
Yes.
Yeah, this is basically giving me agita.
I've had agita over the Jets ever since I've been a fan. Anyway, let's move on. Now I have to go scream about the NBA.
And it wouldn't be an episode if we didn't have at least one rant about the NBA and or the Nets. Of course, now these interests confuse. They come together, they mesh.
So
take it away, Mr. Basketball.
So Brooklyn Nets player LaMarcus Aldridge, actually that's spelled incorrectly, but that's okay.
Spelled incorrectly.
But Nets LaMarcus Aldridge retires after being signed by the Nets, after being released from the Spurs.
Now, of course, this is no fault of LaMarcus Aldridge, because, again, health problems being what they are, heart problems being what they are, you don't want to screw around with that and dare God to do something.
Well, this is Chris Bosh all over again with blood clots.
It is Chris Bosh, and to the extent that it is anybody's fault, it is really team doctors that you couldn't figure this out years ago, that he would have had this problem that would have needed to have been addressed immediately. But LaMarcus Aldridge really needs to do what's best for LaMarcus Aldridge, and at this point, it is walking away, and I do feel bad that because he was still having a good career.
He's still more than serviceable, as they say in the NBA, for sure. He was definitely going to help the Nets, but at the same time, and Chris Bosh actually wanted to come back, and he signed a waiver saying that he was willing to come back, but no, the Heat and no other teams were not willing to take that chance. They don't want him dropping dead on the court.
Yeah, again. He has to do what's best for him and his family,
And
I can't begrudge him for that.
Aldridge has already made millions upon millions of dollars. He's not going broke anytime
Yeah,
soon.
he's going to be fine.
And
really, you made your money. Go be with your family. Go be healthy.
yeah, and we'll actually go right into this one, which is what really frustrated me with the NBA. Nuggets guard Jamal Murray out for the rest of the season due to, I think it was a torn ACL was the official injury. NBA players and executives unhappy with the scheduling as well. Now, my blood is boiling when I saw this injury, and I'm seeing a bunch of injuries in the NBA. Hey, Adam Silver, wake up. Because you guys effed up the first half of the NBA schedule, there are more games being played in the second half of the NBA season due to the negligence of scheduling.
I mean, it wouldn't exactly have been an episode if we didn't, if Adam Silver didn't screw up on something.
Well, I think we need that commissioner point system because I think we're getting close to it here.
Yep. Oh, God, it's going to be a tight race.
But what do you think? Like, you're not surprised with all these injuries, right? Because they're playing too many games in a row.
Oh, of course, because well, again, you spend your time building these super teams, and then you run them into the ground, and then wonder why they don't work.
No, but I'm just saying that when you're the Nuggets, and I think they played like 5 or 6 games in a row, which is a lot for an NBA.
Expect to happen. You have a Lamborghini, you don't drive it immediately into a ditch.
Well, yeah, I mean that's a $500,000 car, but we're talking about athletes who are worth $15 to $20 million a year, and you're playing them 6 days straight, and you're overworking them. What did you think was going to happen? It's frustrating. And you know what? Like I said earlier with Rob Manfred, who can't run his own league, he can't even run a barbershop as opposed to a league.
Please, I wouldn't trust him to manage a Dairy Queen.
Exactly. And you know what? Adam Silver, who's so worried about TV time and money, and he keeps saying, well, I'm doing everything in the power to protect play. No, you're not. You're not doing shit. Wake up, Adam Silver. You're not doing it.
Oh, God.
I mean, the NBA should stand for nothing but assholes because that's what you have at the top of the league when it comes to commissioner and everybody else at the top.
I think you actually did make a meme about that. So, again, moving on.
Well, I think that's the last story, actually. I think we made it to the end. Oh, wait. There's one more surprise story. We have time for it. Did you see, Nick, who's going to be on the guest hosting list for Jeopardy?
I did indeed, and that is Mr. Joe Go Buck Yourself. So, of course, I've had my issues with Mr. Joe Buck before. My previous comment notwithstanding, I actually do like the guy because at least he does have some self-awareness as to how much you think he sucks, because it's really an unenvious position, because if he's broadcasting against your team, if he's broadcasting a team that your game that your team is in, you think he's against your team because he's a national broadcaster. He can't do the homerism that you would get from a Gary Keith and a Gary or a Keith or a Michael Kay or a Paul O'Neill or that kind of stuff.
All right, I'm going to give you a clue to end this episode. Okay, you ready? This is a final Jeopardy clue.
Mm-hmm.
Announcer that calls game with former quarterback that can't control bias for his team. 30 seconds. Good luck.
I'm going to go with what is Joe Buck?
Yeah, you got it right.
I mean, I can't be any worse than Dr. Oz.
Well, or Sanjay Gupta, or Anderson Cooper, or Malim Biayek. I mean, why don't we just... actually, that one I like, because I like Big Bang Theory. But
again, but we'll see how he does. He might be a good host. I don't know. We'll see.
You think so?
Yes, I do. I honestly do.
All right, Nick. That's going to do it for episode 81 of Empty the Bench. For Nick Fodera, I'm Nick Morgasen. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody!
And we will see you. Tom will be back for episode 82.
If we can find him.